we can try to talk about a couple other things. You know what I'm saying? As far as like awareness, you know what I mean? Like I said, awareness is like the most important thing about learning anything. You know what I'm saying? Awareness to get you more far further than just being smart. You know what I mean? Like to be smart, you need to be aware first. To be smart, you need to be aware. You know? That's how I feel. You know what I mean? I would never claim to be smart. You know what I mean? I would just simply say I'm aware. You know what I mean? The amount of things I'm aware of is what makes me smart. You know? Because I wasn't always smart. You know what I mean? Or, seemingly, But when I talk about stuff like this, it can't seem like I'm smart. But really, I'm just aware. Aware of a lot of information. And I'm just putting it all together so I can see the big picture. You know what I'm saying? This is how life is. Life is like a puzzle. You know what I mean? In order for you to see the bigger picture, to see how this whole thing works together, like you have to be aware of certain aspects, certain perspectives. You have to get certain perspectives on things about life. You know what I mean? Each perspective is a puzzle piece. You know what I mean? It's an amazing way to look at it. You know what I mean? Like I said, in essence, everything is energy. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? To understand something complex, you first have to simplify it. That's basic math. You know what I mean? To understand anything complex, you have to first simplify it. Because once you simplify it, you're able to see something that you can actually understand. You know? You know what I mean? If you're just looking at the big scope and big part of it and just, you're going to be overwhelmed by what you're looking at. So you got to scale it down and bring it to somewhere where you can grasp what's going on. You know what I mean? So when I say you got to sit here and observe your reality, that's what I mean. You got to look at the stuff that you can actually see and see how that makes sense, macro wise, Like, this is how you discover this stuff. This is how you discover these things. You know? You know what I mean? So, like, when I say everything is energy, I'm just simplifying, how life is expressing these things. You know what I mean? It's all just energy. You know what I mean? But these energies, express themselves in many different ways. Countless ways. Infinite amount of ways, actually. You know? But, like, when you simplify it, it's not as hard, it's not as overwhelming as far as, when you're trying to analyze aspects of this thing we call life. So, you know, the truth is universal. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Meaning, like, for it to be true, it needs to be able to be understood from a simple perspective and from a complex one. You know what I'm saying? Because complexity ain't nothing but layers of simplicity. You know what I'm saying? That's what people become absent of when they, start learning things about a subject. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, like if you want to become a stock trader, you know what I mean? Like, or, you want to become an artist, you know what I mean? The things that separate you from being as good as someone else who's been doing this stuff for years is just like familiarizing yourself, becoming aware of, certain aspects of that, subject, of that thing you're trying to be a part of. You know what I'm saying? That's where experience comes in handy. You know what I'm saying? Experience leads to wisdom. You know what I mean? Wisdom is pretty much like refined knowledge. You know what I mean? Refinement of what you are aware of. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes people smart. You know what I'm saying? That's what actually makes people smart. You know what I mean? But like I said, don't make it seem like somebody who's speaking in huge words, make it seem like they're like superior to you in any type of way. Don't ever think anything like that. You know what I'm saying? This is the purpose of why I'm explaining all these things and making this video. You know what I mean? People need to be able to interpret life. So like, you don't get like religious and dogmatic towards the things that you're a part of. You know what I mean? Because people wouldn't sit here and acknowledge that science is a religion. You know what I mean? But, I can easily explain why. You know what I'm saying? Because they do the same thing that religion does. You know what I'm saying? Religion ain't doing nothing but categorizing the things that you can see in reality. Like, it's putting a name, a label on it, and categorizing it. You know what I'm saying? It's just a little phantasmal. I don't know if that's a real word, but it's a little exaggerated. You know what I mean? Science does the same thing, except they're just a lot more literal. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? And they use that literalness to, like, they use it in a way like to overanalyze everything. You know what I'm saying? This is why it takes them years and years to discover things, because they sitting there questioning so much stuff that they can't acknowledge the simple things that they already know. You know what I'm saying? And translate that on a higher level, on a deeper level. You know what I'm saying? That's why these people not as smart as you think they are. You know what I'm saying? But it can seem like they are just because they bombarding you with information. You know what I'm saying? That's that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That makes so much sense to me. You know what I'm saying? And then another thing about discovering things is like, when you really get a grasp of what this reality is and who we are intrinsically as beings, you know what I'm saying? You realize that there's more to life than what it seems, like truly. And the beings that we claim we are goes way deeper than what we initially want to, make it seem as. So, we're reincarnated souls, you know what I mean, who've existed for eons, you know what I'm saying, playing the same game of life over and over again, you know what I'm saying, until you become aware enough that that's what's going on, and then you decide to do something else. But, when it comes to discovering things, you ain't doing nothing but remembering things you already know. You know what I'm saying? That's why, when people say it doesn't resonate, like, that's what they mean. Like, is it something that really, like, that you really know and feel deep in your spirit? You know what I'm saying? Because your spirit knows. Your spirit is on the outside looking in. It's looking at everything from outside the box. You know what I'm saying? So it knows the truth. So when things resonate, it'll feel true. You know what I'm saying? But if you need a more masculine way to look at it, you know what I'm saying, then you can do it the way I explained it. You know what I'm saying? And that's by observing your reality. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? The things we know, you know what I mean, to be fact, you know what I mean, that we discover on our own, that we just know and just be like, oh yeah, like, this has to be true. You know what I'm saying? You just have this inner knowing, you know what I mean? That's your genetic memory, you know what I'm saying? That's your genetic memory activating, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I said, I could talk about a lot of stuff about how that ties into the sun, all this other stuff about, reincarnation, all that stuff ties in with the sun and all of that stuff, you know what I mean? But I should save it for another video. You know what I'm saying? but only through genetic memory, you know what I'm saying, do you have access to everything that ever existed. You know what I'm saying? And you get to tap into that when you go to sleep at night. You know, you know, you do a little thing called astral projection. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because these things are tapping in outside the box. You know what I'm saying? While you in 3D reality, while you're awake here, you're inside the box. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? But there's something holding the box. That's what's outside the box. You know what I mean? There's way more stuff for you to be aware of outside the box. You know what I'm saying? There's so much stuff I could talk about, but I just want to talk about what I talked about already. That's the black hole sun. You know what I mean? White holes, coronal holes. You know what I mean? Philosophy. The power of observation. You know what I mean? Awareness. You know? Because this is basically what my channel is going to be all about. And that's discovery through observation, correlation, synchronicity, you know. This is how you think outside the box. This is how you perceive outside the box. You know what I'm saying? Another reason why I'm making this channel is because I have to create a community, man. You know what I mean? I know these things. I'm aware of these things. But, you know, the people I'm surrounded by in my current reality, they cannot grasp this stuff whatsoever. And don't have an inclination or inkling to grasp it anyway, because they too distracted by the things that they do on the day-to-day that they have. They just don't care, you know. And like, I go through things in life and these people want to help me, you know, but they don't really know what I want or the things that I'm trying to achieve. And I know exactly what those things are. And like, you know, I'm not going to be able to do it if I can't find the community, you know, that I actually can connect with. You know what I'm saying? Because the people in my immediate reality, no, like it's not happening, bro. And the only way it will happen is when they see like what I achieve. You know what I mean? They won't know until they see it. You know what I'm saying? They won't understand until they see it, type of stuff. You know what I mean? I will definitely go ahead and openly say I'm a black sheep. You know, I'm somebody who does not fit in, never fitted in. You know what I mean? A lot of this stuff that regular people enjoy doing, I find it very boring. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why is because I've been in this room long enough to know what this stuff is, and it does not do anything for me. You know what I mean? The way I want to live is definitely from a more holistic perspective, you know, a very organic and rich perspective. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, the things I want to achieve cannot be done by myself. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the realm of separation, where things appear to be separate, but truly we are all one. You know, we're all connected. You know, there's a lot of things that I want to do to serve and contribute to this whole game of life that we live in. And you know, the higher role that, you know, this planet serves universally. Like, you know, it's just, there's ways I know how exactly how to contribute to those things, but I can't do it if I can't find the community that actually can understand what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, I be on YouTube. It's the only form of social media that I really enjoy consuming, because, you know, I can go directly to what I want to visually see and learn. You know what I mean? That's the reason why. You know what I'm saying? I watch a whole bunch of people. I'm subscribed to a lot of people who talk about the stuff that I talk about, but, you know, I don't really have much of a relationship with them because, you know, it's just online. Like, you know, that world is not really, like, what's the word, like, it's very intangible. Like, it's not tangible, bro. Like, you know, it's hard to tell what's real and fake in that space. You know what I mean? And like, I don't like being online anyway. So, you know what I mean? But like I said, I can't do this without, you know, finding my community, connecting with people. You know what I'm saying? And it ain't like I got much of a problem doing that. It's just like I said, most of the majority of people is stuff that I don't, you know, I don't want to be attached to be honest. If I'm being truly honest. So, you know, I'm sure this will resonate with somebody. I'm sure it's gonna make sense to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, this is my third time doing this, recording this video, and like, it's almost 40 minutes long. That's too long, bro. That's too long. But like, when you talking about this stuff, like, you know, it's bound to be like this. It's not really, you know, I would rather like to do live streams. You know what I'm saying? Because I can really go deep with a lot of stuff I want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to long forms of media, live streaming is a good way to like, you know, get that out there. You know what I'm saying? Seeing some Cardinals, but you know, I think I said everything I need to say, man. You know what I mean? First YouTube video. You know what I mean? I'm not no expert at this stuff. I'm just winging it. You know what I'm saying? And I have to do it because everything in my life is forcing me to do this. You know what I'm saying? Forcing me, like holding a gun to my head type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, not literally, but like that's what it feels like. You know what I mean? Like, I have no choice but to do this. So, you know, it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I'm not finna sit here and act like I'm perfect, or like I'm, you know, I got some perfect way of presenting this stuff. I'ma just start somewhere, go from there. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because I've been putting it off for way too long. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. Peace and love to all.